Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Tina White, and she's the founder of Panoramic Academy. Tina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, Tina. So we got a lot to talk about today. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of executives that watch this show, and we're going to talk about the big picture of business profitability. What business doesn't want to be more profitable? What business owner doesn't want their business to be more profitable? So we're going to get into that and a whole lot more. But just to get us kicked off, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So Tina, at Mission Matters, our aim is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Tina, what mission matters to you?
So, we are on a mission to help business owners lead a financially strong company that's not dependent on them. So, we actually see a future where service companies, they have a profitable business year round. They're voted best places to work by their employees, and their customers only give them 5-star reviews. So,
Hmm.
businesses often grow by attracting more customers, generating more sales, and hiring more employees. But at the end of the day, all they have is more problems. So we really help them balance the business so that way they can grow without kind of feeling like they're driving a car with a flat tire. So we just help them get their people, their money, and their systems all together. So that way small businesses can, enjoy the benefit of a balanced business.
Great having you on, and love bringing on mission-based individuals to share why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and really what we can all learn from each other so that we grow together. So again, awesome having you here. And I guess just to get us started, where did you get obsessed, or when did this obsession with like business profitability and just business in general, where'd that come from?
I have been all biz, all numbers for as long as I can remember. When I was growing up, I originally wanted to own a bank, but then there's a lot of rules and regulations in that world. And
Hold on,
so,
how old was that? I'm curious.
oh, maybe a teenager. I mean, as long as I can
Wow.
remember, I've always been drawn to games, and I don't know, it's just like the rules in the games, all those different things. So,
So when
um,
you saw, hold on. So when you saw Mary Poppins for the first time and you saw that bank scene with the kids, like that had a different type of effect than me, right? Because you're like,
yes,
oh, I want to own the bank. And I don't think I
yes,
was thinking at that level back then.
yes, yes. I want to own the bank for sure.
Go ahead, please.
And so, after some research, I ended up landing, going through the accounting world and
Mm,
building up my financial skills. Started out my own business in 2010, and then I actually ended up buying an air conditioning company in 2015. And
mm,
so, one of the really cool things when I owned the air conditioning company was I was able to see the business side and help the company mature and grow, even though I don't know how to repair an air conditioner. I,
interesting.
yeah, don't call me because I'll just help you with the thermostat. That's about as far as I can go with the
Yeah.
conversation. And so I've always been really drawn to, my brain automatically thinks about the cost benefit analysis
Mm,
and all of these different things. And so my current business is really driven by the need that I saw not only with my company but with other clients that I've helped them solve these problems. I
mm.
would have employees tell me, oh, but the price is a little bit too high, it only took us
Yeah.
5 minutes, it's only a $5 part. Well, you and I both know there's so much more to
Yeah.
solving that customer's problem than just that $5 part.
Hmm.
And so I started implementing training to help the employees better understand what it costs to run the business, how to better interact and connect with the other departments. What
Mm,
can you spend an extra 3 minutes doing that's going to save someone else 30 minutes in another
mm.
department? And so over time, we were just able to build up those systems to really help the team become more profitable. So it is good to generate more sales, but we need systems and the right people in place in the communication to where
Mm.
everybody understands how they impact that
Yeah.
profitability. So those sales are actually profitable.
I want to stick in the earlier years a little bit longer because this is fascinating to me when somebody purchases a business and they didn't have any background in it. I didn't really understand that concept until I was pretty far along in business and I read the E-Myth and I was like, "Oh, wow, you're probably better off not knowing about the business so you can come at it from a whole different lens and you can think of it objectively the way that you were." Like when you first made that decision to take that leap into, purchase that, let's say the air conditioner company, like what was that like for you? That had to still, even though the numbers are on the table, like everything else, it obviously made business sense or you wouldn't have did it, or at least you thought it did, but you don't know until you're in the business. Like, what was that like?
Well, the purchasing process was probably pretty normal
Hmm.
and exciting because, hey, it's a new thing.
Yeah,
The first 6 months was shocking. It doesn't matter how good the numbers look, there's always going to be surprises
for sure.
because we lost money the first 6 months straight.
Mm,
Lost money 6 months
mm,
straight. Painful as an accountant to lose money 6 months straight.
yeah.
But it was a bunch of things. There's a lot of moving parts. We were buying new trucks, upgrading software.
Hmm.
Some of it you planned, a lot of things were surprises. There was a lot of employee turnover. We started the
Mm,
business with, we kind of inherited 13 employees.
yep.
Well, we only had 11 of those 13 about 18 months into the process because we were just
Yeah.
having so much turnover. And, some of it was by our choice, some of it was by their choice. There was just a lot of different things that were going, that kind of goes through that process.
Hmm.
And so it took about 18 months for us to kind of see the changes that we dreamed about on the front end, but it took
Mm,
a while to, just get everybody on the same, get
yeah.
them on board, implement the systems, upgrade everything. Also, while taking care of customers, because we bought a
Hmm.
company that had been around since 1961. So
Wow.
there was business that needed to be done
Hmm.
while we were also making those improvements.
Yeah. Obviously, with hindsight being 2020, and I asked this question by the way, because there's some people that'll watch this right now that are thinking about purchasing businesses. So I'm speaking more high level than a specific action. Like what would you have done? What would you have done differently if you could obviously have the benefit of hindsight in either that acquisition or in getting into that business?
Hindsight is really to start managing stress a whole lot better.
Ooh. I didn't know
Um,
which way you were going to go with that question. You actually didn't go to the numbers. You went to the stress. That's amazing. Go ahead, please.
I felt really strong with the numbers, and the
Mm,
numbers are super important, but they can only take you so far. So
wow.
when you've got the numbers kind of directing your path and
Mhm.
you're building up your team to be able to support that staff, you've got to have the ability to manage the stress because as a control freak, you cannot snap your fingers and it just happened overnight.
What do you
Like
mean
in
you can't do that, Tina? What? What are you talking?
Yeah, I mean, when you take the leap of faith, you think you can just dream it up, control
Uh,
everything, and it's gonna be done in 5 minutes.
there's
Well, I
some
mean, it
people in
took
driving in their cars right now that are cracking up. They're like, "Yeah, we thought the same thing." Go
it takes time, so you just got to learn how to,
Mm,
really build up your leadership skills, focus on culture first, because your
yeah.
first job is to take care of your people, so your
Mm,
people can take care of your customers,
mm,
and you've gotta be able to manage that stress while you, learn how to enjoy the journey.
yeah. When you think of like big business and when you think about profitability of the business overall, like what does that mean to you in relation? Because I know you we kind of juxtapose this topic with like, more sales, right? But it's deeper than that. Like what does that mean to you?
So for me, when you think about true profitability,
Mhm.
the it includes every single cost that a business is exposed to.
Mm,
And so let's go back just a little bit.
mm,
Profitability is driven by the price that you charge
mhm,
because there's only three ways that your business generates money. It's loans from a bank, it's investments from the owners, and it's
mhm.
price that you charge your customer through the sales process.
Yeah.
The first two are not sustainable long term. You'll lose the ability to borrow money. You'll lose the ability to go back to the investors and ask for more money. They'll stop
Mm,
believing in the idea. So
yeah.
the only way to grow a sustainable business is through the price. And so
Mm,
when you're setting that price, it's got to include all of the cost of doing business. And regardless of the tax structure that you are, it's got to include the owner's salary,
Mhm.
fair market value, and benefits, income taxes, and you've also got to learn how to consider depreciation expense. It's the
Mm.
use of that asset in your business. Then you've also got to think about the loan payments that's over on your balance sheet. There's
Mhm.
only one way for the cash to come in, through that price.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that that price covers everything, where you're able to sustain the business not only for that month, for long
Mm.
term. So to me, all of that is considered in true profitability.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times you have business owners where they're like, oh, well, my profitability is really high. Well, if you're looking at an income statement that your tax accountant prepared based on your tax structure, it's
Mhm.
very likely that you don't see a line item with the owner's salary,
Mhm.
income taxes, and the depreciation may or may not be the annual amount, depending on Section 179. So you might have a big profitability number, but it's not true profitability, because
Mhm.
without you, the business doesn't work. And income taxes are a cost of doing business, and it needs to be considered. So
Mm.
it's a big number that has so much importance, and it's such a key number for businesses to understand the connection between price, profitability, and then also their cash flow.
Mm. Where do you find that I know, I mean, this is what you're doing day in and day out, is working with businesses on this topic. Like, where do you find a lot of them when you get in there, you check everything out, and you're kind of doing your analysis? Where do a lot of people go wrong?
They're very focused in on generating more sales, and then
Hmm.
also lowering their income taxes. But
Mm.
they've got to understand that there's a whole lot of money stuff going on in between those two worlds.
Yeah.
And then also the belief of all the money stuff belongs with the accountant. That's
Oh.
not true. There's financial commitments being made by everyone in your company every single day. The
Mm.
supervisor approves overtime. The salesperson approves a discount. The marketing department is generating leads when they don't fully understand what your ideal customer is and what the big picture looks like. The
Mm.
office manager is ordering lunch because everybody's working overtime trying to close out the
Mhm.
year. Like, all of those financial commitments are made long before that paperwork made it to the accountant. And so
Mm.
just really understanding that money and information flows in and out of the company. You got to
Mhm.
think about it from price, setting that right price,
Right.
generating the marketing, generating those leads,
Mhm.
closing the sale, delivering that service. Was all of that profitable? And
Mm.
then actually, did you get paid? That's one of
Yeah.
the other things that's really surprising to me, is how much effort goes into generating leads, closing the sale, delivering that service. But
Mhm.
did you actually take the time to collect the money? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
too busy to generate the invoice. I'm too busy to call and collect money. Where you're going to be out of business pretty quickly if you
Yeah.
don't learn how to collect.
What was the original idea for Panoramic Academy? Like, what did that stem from?
It's really about helping business owners better understand how the money flows in and out of the business.
Mhm.
And instead of the business owner thinking that they've got to learn accounting, they don't. They just need to
Yeah.
understand that they are the financial leader.
Mm.
They are responsible for making sure that the company does not run out of cash.
Mm.
And think about a business kind of like an airplane.
Mhm.
So if that airplane runs, and the cash is the fuel,
Mhm.
and so if that airplane runs out of fuel, the crash is devastating to everyone on board. And so the
Mhm.
business owner really needs to understand that they are the financial leader, not that they need to understand debits and credits, but they
Yeah.
really need to understand that they need to bring their employees into the conversation to where the sales department understands, I want you to increase sales by 10% this month,
Mhm.
but you cannot rely on discounts. You cannot
Mm.
extend payment terms. You cannot promise this big project by tomorrow, because the overtime is going to turn it into a low profitable, maybe even a break even project. You've
Mm.
got to teach your operations, how much do the mistakes cost? How
Mm,
much do unhappy customers cost? So the panoramic just came from the idea of teaching business owners the big picture of how it all works, but
mhm,
then also equipping them and their teams. How do they all understand their impact in the sales, profitability, and cash flow while
mm,
maintaining great customer service and making sure that it's a great place to work? You can
mm.
have it all. And the best part is you can delegate decisions to where it's not all dependent on you as the business owner.
Yeah.
I don't know how to repair an air conditioner, but I bought, operated, and sold a great company.
Oh my gosh, Tina, it's a great story, and I crack up and I laugh because I'm thinking about like my previous business was I was a financial advisor. So when I even got into media and all this, like in the beginning, all everybody wanted to talk to me about when I told them I was going into media was like the content and the creativity and this and that. And all I was counting was how many clicks does it take to get a podcast episode out? And what's my cost per piece of content that we put out? Now we've come a long way since those days, and now we do spend some time on obviously the formal production side of it. But if you listen to some of that early stuff, it was rough. I was like, we gotta get this pancake off the grill and on the plate already. I don't have time for all the rest of this. Oh, that's funny. So how long has this business been around, by the way? Panoramic Academy, I mean. How long you
I,
been around?
st- I started it in 2010.
Yeah. So you've
And
been
the
doing
first
this for a while. Like that's my point. So you've been doing this for a while. Is there anything that's kind of surprised you now that you've been through? If it's 2010, obviously that's post 2008, and now you've seen some cycles. You saw the pandemic. Like just anything that surprised you, like along the way, whether it's with the clients or otherwise.
Probably one of the biggest things is if you struggle to make money during the peak
Mm,
economies that we've seen over the last few years,
yeah.
or even going back to 2008, the companies that survived those really slow times were the ones that were steady. They
Mm,
were a little bit on the boring side from
yeah.
an
I
operational
like
standpoint.
boring. Boring's good.
It is beautiful when you look at financial statements, and you want to have the natural ability to stretch, and you want to grow,
Mm,
and you want to see where you can take your business, but you don't want to take your business so far that you're almost just putting everything
yeah.
on black at the roulette table, like
Yeah.
you want to make it to where when you are growing, you are being very strategic. And if
Mhm.
that idea doesn't work, it doesn't destroy everything that you've built.
Yeah.
And so really if you are in a great economy and you're still not making money, there's a
Mm.
major flaw in your operations
Yeah, there's a problem. Mhm.
because you should be making money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, and I think for especially for first time, business owners, whether they bought the business, they bootstrapped it, they took on investors or otherwise, it's almost like what you just mentioned, that kind of like hard knock side of things and hitting your first downfall. It's almost like that normally, or the first like big thing that happens, whether it's the pandemic, the 2008, the tech bubble, 2002, we go back to the 80s. I mean, it's always going to happen, right? But it's almost like if you can avoid that first, real big what happened, wipe out, so to speak, like it's a big deal. And I feel like if you have the foresight to work with individuals like yourself and companies, and to kind of like people have already been through this before. So if you're like you mentioned, if we're at the height of the economy, everything's going well, and you're still not making money, like what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen when things get really tricky? Like what's your staying power going to be? And so figuring all this stuff out, like no matter where you're at, in my opinion, like it's important. And the main thing is we want to make sure you can still be in the game and it's worth your time, right?
Definitely. And for the companies that are starting out, when I bought the business, the air
Mm.
conditioning company, I jumped off on the deep end.
Yeah.
But it is very different than
That's why I said, ooh, that's scary. And you don't know. Yeah, it's different.
and it's different than even with Panoramic Academy because I've
Mhm.
been building it from scratch since 2010.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest misconceptions for the people that are thinking about starting a business, or maybe you recently did,
Mm.
is if we go back to that book E-Myth,
Mhm.
we are all naturally starting as the technician role. And when I
Mhm.
say technician, the author defines that as anyone that's doing the work. You
Yep.
go to work, you put your head down, and you actually do the work. So
Mhm.
you are either the plumber, the air conditioning technician, or you're
Mhm.
the lawyer. You're the one that's
Or you're the
actually
podcast host. No.
yes, yes, you're the one actually doing it, but you've got to understand that that's a very different skill set than
Mhm.
actually being that entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so when we come to the table with our natural bias from that technical standpoint, we
Mm.
usually fall into the world of doing the work in
Mhm.
that phase of operations and delivering that service. And you've got to understand that you need time, money, and energy to finish that entire business cycle. You've
Mm.
got strategic planning. You've got to attract the customers with your marketing. You've got to
Mhm.
learn how to sell. I'm speaking to myself with that one. You've got to deliver the service, and then you've got to take the time to consider the administrative side, the
Mhm.
insurance, the accounting, and your budgets, all of that type of thing. And
Mm.
so you cannot think that you can just focus everything in what you naturally are drawn to
Mhm.
for 40 hours a week and run a business. No, you're probably going to need to spend a lot more time because you are now the entrepreneur and you wear all the hats. And you
Yeah.
either need to charge a price high enough to where you can afford to pay other people, or for a little while, you're going to be, just kind of bootstrapping the business and you've got to learn enough. And just like what you said, the early days of your podcast, you focused on the bare minimum that you
I
needed
was
to do.
focusing on clicks. How many clicks to put out an episode? I swear I used to count them, and I was like, "That's what." And speed of delivery.
And that's
Like
a
no,
big
nobody else was thinking like that. I was thinking like a financial advisor. I'm like, and that's why 8 years later we put out over 100,000 pieces of content, and we're not iHeartRadio. We don't have 4,000 employees, so we're punching above our weight based on the systems that were built on the back end, though, even in the early days.
and that's a great point. You focused on shipping the product.
Yeah.
You didn't
Getting the
focus
pancakes
on
on the plate. I'm telling you, Tina, get that
yeah, I mean,
podcast episode on the plate.
and you learn through, a
Mm.
lot of the, people clicked
Yeah.
on this, but not this, you learned through the process. And, a lot of business owners, they can kind of get stuck in the idea phase,
Hmm.
but you gave a great example of, hey, let's get the minimum viable product out there and
Mhm.
let the audience, everybody tell us what we need to do to make it better next time.
Yeah.
And that's a big learning lesson for a lot of people starting out. Don't get stuck in your head. Let the
Mhm.
market tell you what you should do next.
It's amazing. Well, Tina, first off, it's been great having you on the show. I just have to ask, what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for Panoramic Academy? What's your vision?
So I really enjoy providing business classes. I have some classes online that are
Mm.
available at self-paced, but I really look at 2024 as more of a live in person type of
Mm.
opportunity, because I think we all miss the extra nuances that you can get from live in person
Oh
classes. So that's
yeah,
what
I
I'm
agree
really
with
looking
that.
for this
Mhm.
year.
Amazing. And if somebody wants to connect and learn more or continue the conversation, how do they do that?
They can go to
Mhm.
panoramicacademy.com/grow. And that is a great place for them to find curated information to kind of help them continue in this conversation.
Fantastic. And for everybody watching, we'll put that information into the show notes. So you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or listening to an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives on the show, having them share their mission, like what makes them tick. This is a daily show. We have many more interviews coming up and amazing entrepreneurs just like Tina. If that sounds interesting to you, hey, hit that subscribe button. We don't want you to miss any of those episodes. Again, this is a daily show, so hit that subscribe. And if you're a long-term listener or viewer and you have not yet left a review, come on, you know what to do. Hit the review button. And Tina, thank you so much for coming on. It's been so much fun, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.